Welcome, sales professionals. Those aspiring to become a sales professional. You might be a sales associate looking to move up into the sales role. We'll just adjust the hair there. Or you may well be a sales professional that's already moving but somewhere between here and high-end production. I know I've said this many, many times, but I did have the question yesterday where someone was asking me, you know, what's the disparity? What's the difference between each of these channels? Well, I think probably the best way to have the correlation step out is to just do it in and around what we do with Prospector. So Property Careers Prospector School, this is in the foothold channel, again, colored predominantly with a red coloring. This is for those that are looking to break the market. Yes, most of what we talk about on, if not all, is centric to prospecting, as the title would suggest, in relation to breaking into a market or rejuvenating a market. If you've already got control of one little pocket and you're breaking another one, I thoroughly recommend that you jump in there and have a listen to that sort of stuff. What we do here, this is on the traction level. This is about, you know, you've already got those seed listings. You've already made a break into the market and you're looking to build market share. Of course, this encompasses the idea of not just prospecting, but setting those prospects up, which I'm going to talk about today, so that when you get down there to do a listing presentation, dare I say it, more so a listing education, that you actually have the client softened to understand your product and it just becomes easy. So some of the things we want to mitigate, certainly through our presentation or education, I know I have to keep correcting myself, is that the prospect kind of buys your service rather than you having to necessarily sell it to them. The next phase beyond that is where we move to Real Estate Rockstar. This is for peak performance professionals or those aspiring to be, and it is black and it's all around the momentum phase. So this assumes that you're actually getting market share in an area. You might be looking to expand your area and get another one. You know, lots of things are already learned. So it's more advanced in its teachings and how it works out. And then we have a green color, which we've just introduced. It's called automation. This is fundamentally for sales team leaders. If ever you've had it in your mind that you want to move into the space of being a sales team leader, I thoroughly recommend you jump onto that channel and start listening to all those things as they relate to leadership and heading up a sales team moving forward. More than welcome to open up the education space around that. It is not something that's, I guess, closed off, and very, very keen to see lots of participation in that. So here we are, this session, T2 for traction. The second phase is number 14. And this is about, as it relates to listing, passive communication, but more importantly, and I know we've been covering this off in previous weeks. So, you know, initially I started talking about promotion, how that factors in, how you can utilize promotion in the sense of marketing as well in the prospecting space, but also how that adds value in and around prospecting is something you should be prepared for before you go to a listing presentation as a competent and, you know, accomplished marketer. And then we moved into the next space. The next session was what we call pandemonium, sort of making sense of all this headway where, you know, you've got the constraints of lockdown, which has effectively slowed the market somewhat, despite the fact that there is definitely an undersupply of listings, as we're yet to see the fallout of lockdowns and the effect that COVID has obviously had on each economy, and how that will then sort of augur in with real estate. We then talked about, I got back to the listing presentation and started talking about performance. You know, as I said, it's not what you say at a listing presentation, it's so much how you say it, and very much spoke about the engagement factor, not talking at someone, rather talking to them, not presenting at like the old listing presentation cliche, more like a listing education. And then finally, we talked about this being the last quarter. This was last week. This being the last quarter, and we need to set up to bounce into what will be November, the combination of December and November culminating into a 7-week month, and how you not only have that run up this quarter and achieve the productivity goals and targets you may have set to yourself, but also set up so that when you have that Christmas, you have that well-deserved break, that you come back and you've got the momentum to just fly into the new year. And of course, so that's that whole bounce platform. And I've also been alluding, so if I go into the property careers thing, into prospector school, I've talked very much about the orientation of how you are communicating with sellers. And I say that, the real key to communication with those sellers, the orientation, is to make it centric to their motive rather than the price. I know we get excited as estate agents for sellers that the market is good and it's rising and properties are relatively easy to sell. Understanding that markets are liquid, they could change at any time. But one thing that is relatively consistent with property sellers and really goes to the top of their list once they consider putting a property on the market is what they're going to do with the proceeds, or what happens after that property is sold. And it can be anything from solving a financial problem through to solving a living problem or a job transfer or whatever the case might be. So that orientation, that discussion leads to something that supersedes price. And I think that's price comes in at, sort of number 7 in and around it. So then when we were talking about making the connection, so focusing on, as we've already talked about, building rapport primarily by talking about the motive, the reason for selling, and the secondary incidents, the property itself, and then finally the client themselves, and making all that conversation centric. From there, we started talking about regeneration. This is something that should be very close to you guys, because most of you will be in traction phase. You do have listings. I have actually spoke on that here a few weeks ago in what is now known as season 1 of these sessions. And what I've spoken about is when you actually get a listing, that your immediate attention should be to leverage, to turning that one listing into 2 more. That was a big issue that I spoke about last week. And focusing so very much on the sales inquiry that's coming in, particularly that which is centric to the service area that you are looking to build market share in, and how you qualify them. Importantly, just this week, Sophia, who is a sales associate who works very closely, Sophia Tui, I'm sure I've mentioned her on here before, who's had just a rip-snorting start into real estate sales. Well, she works with Justin Hicks, and just last weekend, 3 new properties came to market between those 3 in their first week of open house, notwithstanding that each of those properties sold, 2 of them actually sold in the first weekend, so they didn't get past this first open house. But when you look at the number of people that came or attended those open houses, all 3 properties located in the heart of their service area, we had 100 parties through. And as I said to Sophia on the first thing on the Monday, well, basically there's in excess of 10 sellers in there that are researching the market ahead of selling. Now, the first thing that she said to me was, well, how come? Because I had the property sellers research guide there, and I was kind of trying to qualify them, which is very difficult to do. So her dialogue loosened up a bit, which is understandable. Like on one of them, there's 50 odd people coming through in couples into a 45-minute open for inspection. That means that they're kind of queued up behind each other. And she said, you know, it was, I didn't get many people saying, yes, they're selling and taking the property sellers research guide, despite the fact she was on the ball and got the welcome home invitations out that were specifically saying, if you're researching the market ahead of selling, we'd like you to check out our welcome home. Whilst you are there, don't forget to ask our sales representative for your copy of the property sellers research guide. Now, all I said to Sophia was, I said, well, that's okay, because you need to look at it from their perspective. And if you are taking notes with what I'm just about to share with you, I urge you to write down that which I've just shared with you. You need to look at this from the perspective of a property seller. See yourself as your prospective sellers are seeing you, and you'll start to understand why, first and foremost, by the time we're getting to the listing presentation at the moment, given the way most agents are approaching it, little wonder that there might be some pressure on fees at the moment. And I spent a good hour and a half this morning, which is, I kind of ran over time, with a sales team in New Zealand when we're talking about fees and charges and all the principles that underpin it. I became so impassioned, you know, and what I try to understand is, what I try to explain is, and you need to again understand this, that the moment there's a question around value, fee's going to come into sight. So when somebody starts to question your fee, I want you to think in your head, they can't really see the value. And again, this is the subject matter that we want to raise. In any event, I then went through with Sophia all of the dialogue as it relates to assumptive closes. I made it clear to her, imagine you were standing in line. You're there when these people have turned up. You are a seller. There's a whole lot of other people behind you. Everyone can kind of hear what's being said. So if the agent says to you, welcome to the open home, are you buying or selling at the moment? You're sitting there and you're going, well, I really only should be here. I feel like I should be if I'm looking at buying. I'm actually here to suss it out with my own. I'd be happy to tell the agent that, but I've got all these people standing behind me. I'm not going to volunteer that information. So don't panic if it doesn't happen, but it doesn't mean don't ask. It does mean ask. It does mean show that thing. So these people are seeing you in action. You need to understand the open for inspections. This is just a reminder, need to be more centric to the sellers more so than the buyers. Because I've never come across a buyer who said, I wouldn't buy that property off the agent because I didn't like the way they ran the open home. They fall in love with the property, everything's okay. And I've told you this on many, many occasions. There is always another buyer, but there is rarely a second chance with a seller. So I openly say to them, don't, whatever you do, don't make your open for inspection, don't build it around buyers and worry about what buyers are going to do and say. There'll always be another buyer. Focus on the sellers. Listing always comes before selling. And it's important that you understand that, because as we said to you last week, the most important thing that you can do right now is build your list of your APS list, which is your active property seller list. This is the most important thing in the bounce month of Rocktober. This is the platform by which you set up this and next quarter. And you want to identify 25 plus sellers. Doesn't matter if they're saying now or after Christmas, at this point in time, you just want to get that list built up. Now, I promised you, even though I alluded to it, all of those points, that we would formulate this into a process. And I am very pleased to say that we've done just that. Those of you that are involved in the Sales Trainer Mentor program will know that this was the thing that I spoke to you about this week with great regularity. Of course, those involved in the Real Estate Rockstar program, it was the same thing. I made you very much aware. So I was only just talking to Ange Sorrellis and Stuart Hatfield yesterday. They've been implementing this 9-step process, as I'm showing you, in what we refer to as the pre-list of active property sellers. So once you've got that list, you're now in the pre-list phase, and what you need to do is run this, because what this is representative of is the value that they need to see to make this into the success that it needs to be. All right, so first on that list, oh, sorry. So what we are calling this, I'll just move into that space. Oh, so I was just, what I was explaining to you is what had happened with Ange Sorrellis and Stuart Hatfield. They've been rolling this out just on, so the phase that they were up to as of yesterday was rolling out the comparative market analysis with the cover letter that I put on here last week and showed to you. Now, the net result of that is they now have 4 sellers, 2 more listings that came yesterday. They've got 4 listings that were initially scheduled to run after month, because they've actually had this platform out there and the communication has been relatively sound, that they've now moved those into listing this month for November or December, if you like. And those sales have now come into play, and the competition is out. And I'll say this again very slowly so that we thoroughly understand what it is that we are doing here. You're building up your APS list. So Ange and Stuart got theirs to 38. It has continued to grow. They've got 2 listings just by happenstance with all the activity that they've got out there. And I've made this very clear to you. Once you get to 25, it's exponential growth, because you're talking to so many people, they will gravitate towards you. And if you are pushing this information that I'm showing you out there, providing service, representing value, showing your professional capacity, not only does this set up the listing education perfectly, where I believe you can start to move into a space of pre-selling, so much so that when you get out there, you will win listings relatively easy. In fact, I think it's more so yours to lose. All right, so step number 1 in the APS, PreLiST APS, is to get out the property sellers research guide. Now, before you jump to conclusions and say to me, well, I gave these people the property sellers research guide at the point of sale, that's okay too. But if you've given them that copy, which would probably most likely be a hard copy, hopefully, if you think this is an advertisement for property marketer, it is, who cares? You don't have to jump on board and get it. You can create something of your own design. But if they've already received the property sellers research guide, I'm not going to go into all the nuances around it, but what does it basically set up? It explains how value works, the difference between market and comparable value. It highlights or emphasizes the fact that market value is what they receive. It then concedes that they could find a property, a buyer themselves. The buyers are out there, that we already have buyers as agents, and basically selling the property, well, that's the easy part. But it then goes on to definitively make it clear that value is protected and indeed leveraged as valuable variables that are within the controls of an estate agent. They are the marketing, the negotiation parameters, and of course the communicative skills that a sales professional brings to the party. It then talks about fees and charges and makes it clear that, you know, agents have different fees, but it's what are you looking for? You're looking for value and how it works. This is just the beginning. This sets the premise up, and it allows you, as I said this morning, I spent the best part of an hour and a half explaining to a sales team how in your language and what you do and say, how your psych is very solid on fee, and you move that psych into technique and you're utilizing the dialogue, but the belief pattern is underpinning that, how that will produce the results, and those results will in turn produce the psych. One of the major things that I explained this morning is just how you receive that initial offer and leverage a buyer up almost immediately the moment they find a home. So I focused, and I'll talk more about this next week. At the moment, I just want us to be focused on these 9 steps. So the property seller's research guide goes out. The next thing is you have to move into sending out SMSs. Now, before some of you sit there and say, I've heard this before, the question I'm going to ask you is, are you sending those SMS texts out to people that have flagged for you that they have an interest in property? And again, I'm going to bring it back to this point where I say you need to see yourself the way those prospects are seeing you. So although you know about the sales results are occurring, and of course we're selling properties, can you understand that with the constraints inside the market, with the effects of lockdown, with everything else that's going on, with people not being able to find something to buy and being reluctant to put a property on the market, they're assuming that no one's actually listing anything and nothing's actually selling. Now, if in real time you're sending them twice a week a text that's telling them that you're actually moving people, and the nature of that text is centric to the fact of that you're satisfying motives, that you're satisfying timing constraints, that people are able to find what they want and are under no pressure to actually sell until that happens, that you're basically looking after people the right way. Can you see that from their perspective, they've just received a property seller's research guide, they're getting texts regularly. Then we move to step 3. You send them out a comparative market analysis, despite the fact you haven't been near the property yet. It doesn't have your opinion of price. It has a cover letter on there that explains it's nothing more than a comparative value. It's a benchmark. It's not what you're going to receive. It's just an opinion. Everyone's going to differ in their opinion. What you're going to receive is market value. But now they have a platform for further engagement. When you call them, there is something to discuss. This means that you can actually build a personable relationship with discussions in and around this stuff. Then we move to step 4, which is the welcome home invitation. Now, you should invite them to attend one of your open for inspections, or what we call a welcome home. Yeah, this is real pressure. If you're sitting there thinking, well, if they came to one of my open homes, it's no different to one of my competitors, well, bang, there's your problem. If you are not disseminating, if there is no clear-cut difference on a professional level between yours and a competitor's open for inspection, then this needs attention, because this is your shop front. This is your point of sale. This is your opportunity to showcase your product. As I often say, open for inspection, a welcome home, is a virtual listing presentation, and you need to set it up so that it does just that, that it is for them screaming out, this is what you get if you list with us. So get that invitation out. It doesn't have to be a property that's native or local to them. Here's the thing, it doesn't matter if they don't turn up to it. So even if I met these prospects, even if I met this active property seller at an open for inspection, I still invite them to it. And I highlight the features that they will see at my open for inspection where they mightn't see them in others. Now, we have a cover letter that's available to go with that invitation that you send out. Be mindful of the fact that it says, if you're researching the market ahead of selling, you're welcome to attend. And in the cover letter, you should make very specific points or highlight the features that they'll see at your open for inspection that they are not likely to see at others, and why yours work as a standout. Now, if they don't turn up, doesn't matter. If they look at it and they see it, now look at where we're at. We're only at the 4th point in from the seller's perspective. They've had 3 agents where they've made it clear that they are looking at selling, maybe not until they find something to buy. The other agent's ringing them every other week, and the conversation that they're having with them doesn't amount to much more than, are you ready? Are you ready to put it on? Or maybe, are you ready to put it on? If you put it on right now, we'll give you a discount on fee. You don't have to do the marketing. You can do it off market or whatever. But you're steadfastly showcasing your product, making it clear that this is what goes on inside of a real estate transaction. This is where the value is. Suddenly you're starting to jockey ahead. They're seeing you in action, seeing things starting to work. This is where it is highlighted. So step 5, we move to what we call the 2View platform. What is that? 2View is a dedicated subdomain that is accessed by the punters by the street address of the property. So basically the street address of the property is the web address that goes to an advertisement of the property. Yes, this is only available in our property marketer suite. You can create something similar yourself. It might cost you some money to do that. If you're a subscriber of Property Marketer, it's free. You can offer this to sellers. Where it is fantastic of late is that if there are any lockdown constraints or issues around it, you can offer for sellers to have this feature, FOC, and you could indeed be marketing their property in an off-market fashion for nada. And it offers a line. Again, it's just something that's representative of value. Again, it's a good talking point, and you can send them samples of properties you already have on the market that have these subdomains in play. The next one is to send your market roundup or your newsletter. It's very simplistic. The newsletter needs to be lean on information, but answer those 2 perpetual questions that every property owner has of estate agents. And that is, of course, how's the market? So in less than 100 words, you print that out. And what's my property worth? Again, if you're a subscriber to Property Marketer and you use this function, we write that first 100 words for you. We formulate it into a newsletter and send it back so you're ready to send that out either by HTML, which of course is electronically, or in hard copy where you can have them printed and have them available at your open for inspections. The next one is your accolades. And boy, did I go on about this one in Real Estate Rockstar with those guys that are involved in Momentum. I was at them for all they were worth. And I basically said, what you need to do is focus on building your recommendations and get those sent out. So in the case of, and I just want to make this point, Ange and Stuart have clearly got half a dozen more listing opportunities that they were not planning on having as a result of doing just what I'm saying right now. So Stuart sent all these things out. Then he's got Ange's accolades built up and he's shooting them out on his behalf, which is easy to do because these accolades are saying really good things about Ange. Now, if Ange sends his own ones, they're a bit iffy because it's about him. But because Stuart works with him, it's like he's giving the response that Ange wants to see. So very, very, very simplistic. I'm not having a good morning this morning. Okay, so get those accolades out and get them across to your clients. They need to see these recommendations because the reality is if you say something of yourself, it's doubted, but if people are saying it about you, it's totally believed. Then comes the new one. We're going to send case studies to them where we show them instances of people who were perhaps even saying, we don't want to put ours on the market yet until we find something to buy, where you've had people that have trusted your judgment around that. They've done it. They've then managed to find something. Here's the marketing product they used. Here's how long it was on the market for. Here's the result we've got. And this, again, makes it easy for people to buy because they don't have to think too much about it, because you're saying, here's a proven product. This is how it's performing. That makes it easy for me to buy and easy to make a decision, rather than go through the confusion of talking to a bunch of agents and trying to figure out or make a selection as to which way to go. So we're building these up in through Property Marketer, so you can just enter all the details. They're ready to go, and you can shoot those case studies out, and eventually they're going to sit inside a listing presentation. What do you need to formulate these? Real simple. Good testimonial shots of the owners, just head and shoulder shots in a natural state. Shots of the property, which you'll always have, given that the property went to market. Packaged up marketing products that you can just say, this is the same product being used over and over again, and here's how it's performing, and just be able to feed that back. And last, number 9, by no means the least important, probably a big one, is then putting together a buyer match where you give them, say, you know, anywhere from 3 to half a dozen specific buyers that you name, give some information about, and say, should your property come to market, these are the people that we're ready to roll with right now. This has a double effect. It shows that you've already got buyers. It shows that they're qualified. It shows that you are in control of what's going on. But I guess, importantly, it also mitigates a competitor trying to bring that property to the market in an off-market arrangement, making it look like they're ready to go and you're not, and solving it. All important, folks. All adds up to you being in control, being the boss, moving forward in representation of your product. And before we go, I just want to make this very, very clear. If you need a copy of that 9-step process, just send me an email, Mark with a K at salestrainer.com.au. You want some help with setting your week up? If you want to jump on board as a sales trainer mentor client, I think we've got 2 vacancies there in this quarter right now where we can fit you in. My phone number is +61 410 592 165. Just remember that if you show this value, if you get this in place, if you literally demonstrate your product and showcase it, when you do get to the listing presentation, the value will be ostensibly clear. You're most likely not going to encounter any grilling in and around your fee, and you have done something that is very, very important in this new era as it relates to the business of listing and selling real estate. You've made it easy for that client to buy your services rather than you having to sell them.